Nerdrotic.com.
It's been a bad week for Game of Thrones. Hot off the Q&A from 3 days ago in Texas where Dan and Dave admitted that they were in over their head, they didn't know what they were doing, and they were learning on the job, didn't like the magical aspects of George's story, didn't understand the themes, and didn't understand the characters. We now learn today, just 8 minutes ago, Game of Thrones Naomi Watts prequel is done at HBO. Before I get started, if you like what I do here and you like independent content, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking and sharing the videos. That helps me a lot with the algorithm and it helps me compete with the giant corporations that YouTube is favoring right now. I was right in the middle of uploading that Q&A video and I will put it on the channel a little bit later today or on Nerdrotic Live. If you haven't subscribed there, please do. Game of Thrones Naomi Watts led prequel dead at HBO. Jane Goldman's pilot was filmed over the summer and will not be moving forward, and by all accounts it wasn't very good. I heard it was Downton Abbey in Westeros. I heard that they were going to gender swap Lan the Clever, who was the originator of House Lannister. And I heard we were going to get the origins of the Night King, a character we're not even sure is ever going to show up in the books, and a character that really didn't matter much because a girl came out of nowhere and killed him, and it turns out he wasn't that dangerous in the first place. The untitled Game of Thrones prequel from Jane Goldman, who worked on Kingsman, which was a good film, is not moving forward at HBO. I have done videos on this. You can check it out right here. Said to focus on the age of heroes and the first ever battle between Man and White Walker, Goldman's prequel, which had filmed a pilot over the summer, will not be advancing to series, The Hollywood Reporter has confirmed according to sources. Goldman emailed the cast to share the news. Now I'm waiting for the Mary Sue to come out with their latest article attacking the patriarchy, and I'm sure it was the patriarchy's fault that this pilot got canceled. I'm sure it just wasn't terrible, and I'm sure it just wasn't expensive. And when they announced that other prequel recently, which I'm still not sure is going to happen, I knew this one was dead on arrival. The news comes shortly after word of HBO nearing a deal to produce a second pilot, so it's not a done deal yet, based in the world of Game of Thrones, from the minds of author George R.R. Martin and Ryan J. Condell. And I think HBO realized that if George R.R. Martin is not directly involved with your show, you better not make something based on his work. The series is said to focus on the reign of the Targaryen kings and the lead up to the events of Game of Thrones, aligning the vision of the project much more closely to the days of Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen than the now scrapped Naomi Watts starring prequel, though still quite a bit earlier than the events of the Emmy-winning HBO series, which wrapped its final season and collapsed its final season in the spring of 2020. I think you meant the spring of 2019, unless you are Mike Zero and we are in the future. Now, the important thing to take out of this is HBO is having a lot of second thoughts, and George R. R. Martin has yet another distraction so he doesn't have to write Winds of Winter, and he can go back in the past and go off of his source books like Fire and Blood and A World of Ice and Fire instead of actually finishing his damn book, which he obviously doesn't want to do at this point. You know, I ran into George R. R. Martin at an Orville set tour, and he didn't shake my hand, but he did give me a little wave. And I'm sure he's heard of a couple of my videos at this point, or maybe not. But I know he knows there is a lot of criticism out there, and it doesn't seem to bother him at all. As a matter of fact, I overheard him say that he wasn't going to be writing anything in the book in October because it was award season, and we know that Game of Thrones really earned all of those awards. I know it won a bunch of Emmys. I know there's still people who still like Game of Thrones Season 8. But when you watch my next video, whether it's on this channel or another channel, wherever this video lands, either on Nerdrotic or Nerdrotic Live, I will put a link in the description and you will hear about the Q&A session from 3 days ago in Texas, again, where Dan and Dave unintentionally admitted a lot. And don't think you're not going to hear clapback about a female-led prequel being canceled to make way for a white male-led prequel. Oh my God, meritocracy. I can hear the Mary Sue writing that article right now, and they wrote a ridiculous one about the Q&A, and I will add that to my video before I put it up. But here's the problem. You're going to get a prequel to Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones did have an ending of sorts in season 8, but it was a disaster. But book fans are not going to give to shits because they don't want another prequel. They don't want another source book about a story that's not going to finish. But HBO is not going to move ahead with anything Game of Thrones with Warner Brothers or AT&T or whoever owns them now without George R.R. Martin's direct involvement. So you can kiss Winds of Winter goodbye. The dream of spring will be nothing but a dream. And Game of Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire fans will split at that point. Sure, there's going to be a bunch of normies who will probably be interested in the prequel, but not enough to make it the sensation that it was. And they need it to be that to be able to afford it. The Game of Thrones news we've all been waiting for is to hear that George is finished with Winds of Winter, and we've had a huge drought of Game of Thrones news, but then we get two major stories in one day, and they're interlinked with Star Wars and Dan and Dave. That's why I'm going to be doing two videos across two channels, and I'm very grateful for all the Game of Thrones fans that came over to this channel for our collective therapy. But I would love to have some good news. And honestly, another prequel isn't good news to me. George, finish the damn book. Everybody have a great day. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.
Nerdrotic.com. Please subscribe.